G'day and welcome back to another episode of The Experience. Today's guest is as fit as a fiddle. He's going to inspire you to get off your ass and get moving in 2021. He was originally based in Melbourne, but now up in Noosa with his family, leading a tribe of over 330,000 Instagram followers to lead healthier and more fulfilling lives. Running boot camps in his now hometown of Noosa and digitally training people all over Instagram, Australia and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, from your home, your car or wherever you are, give a very warm welcome to the incredible Matty C. Fox.
Thanks, mate. Good to be here and talk to you.
Absolute pleasure to have you on the show, man. I've been following you for a little while. I think the first time I come across you was actually when you were hanging out with, mate, the very curious character that is Johnny Edland. Obviously a bit of a social butterfly, that guy, and I've seen you through there and was really intrigued by the way you run things. You've obviously got an incredible physique, and sort of as I delved into what you're doing and the way you do things, all built off the back of very athletic body weight training, which is available to everyone. And in these crazy times where, you know, certain people have gyms closed and less opportunity to be in front of equipment, mate, it's a very good way of training. So I'm really, really keen to dive into your story. Sort of kick us off at the beginning. If I'm getting this right, you started off with a bit of a pro tennis career.
Yeah, I think growing up, I played kind of like Aussie kid. You do kind of a bit of everything, don't you? You know, I did the swimming and the athletics and Aussie rules, football, soccer, life saving, everything like that. Then tennis, and that was kind of the one that I seemed to stick to more, and got to travel around the world for that. And so I was pretty full on with that for, you know, from about 14 years to 21, 22. And then stopped that around, I think I was just almost turning 22. And then, haven't really played since. So it's been a while now, but yeah, I got to travel around, lived in Europe for 4 years, which is pretty cool. So some really good experiences out of it. Learned a ton of things with discipline, and you know, it's a lonely sport as well. It's an individual sport, so you learn a lot. You have to do everything yourself. So yeah, it's good. It was good. It was a good teacher.
Oh, I can imagine. Tell me, living in Europe, whereabouts were you based?
I was majority of the time in Denmark.
Wow.
And then probably 3 years Denmark, 6 months Holland, 6 months Sweden.
Now, it's funny because we were talking just a moment ago off camera about, you know, my time. I spent a year in Melbourne. As many of the listeners of the show know, you were a Melbourne boy for a good period of time there. I reflect on my time in Melbourne, and people always ask me, hey, what do I do when I go to Melbourne? Like, what should I do to have a good time? I don't know. I worked way too much. Was that similar to Denmark? Was it, you know, just really locked down training and real laser focus on your tennis, or?
I mean, yes and no. Obviously, you know, I was there basically because Europe's just got so many more tournaments than Australia, and they're all obviously, you know, you can drive around, you can get the train to different countries, so everything's a bit more condensed. So no, in that way, that I still got to, you know, go over to different countries quite regularly, so you could still experience a few things. But then once I was there, yes, because it was kind of like the hotel and the tennis club, and the hotel and the tennis club, you don't have a lot of time outside of that.
Yeah, I can imagine, for sure. It's a busy schedule when you're a pro athlete, regardless of what sport you play in, let alone a sport where it is so dedicated from what I've seen. And you finished up around 21, 22. Sort of want to dive into that a little bit, because if I'm getting this correct, and from one of your past interviews I've heard, you finished up because of some ill health.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what brought me. No, it's not what brought me back. I came back because I was getting sick of it. I just lost the motivation to travel and everything like that. But then when I did come back, that's when I found out the news, and then from there, didn't really want to get back into it, I guess.
Yeah, and the news was the unfortunate arisal of testicular cancer, if I'm correct,
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
which is obviously a tough slog for a young fella, and it is the
Yeah.
most common cancer, I should say, in young fellas here in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, I think, well, second to skin cancer. Yeah.
And how do you handle that news? Like I was born with cystic fibrosis, and I've been pretty blessed, mate. I'm in a really healthy bod for a guy with cystic fibrosis, and have been able to manage it really well. And hurdles
Yeah.
come along the way. You tackle them. You have a bit of adversity and some odds to overcome. But I know for a lot of people with my cause, or a lot of young guys or young girls that I see who would sort of have to tackle a bit of adversity and come across an illness, can be tough.
Mm.
Can really play on your mind. How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, initially it was probably tough, like really initially, but then, after, when I say really initially, probably like, getting the news from the doctor and then a couple of days either side of that. And then it's not that, I mean, none of it is good, but it's not the worst one you can get, obviously. There are a lot of worse cancers out there. So that obviously gave me a bit of hope, but really then I just viewed it as a challenge, just to improve on that and to get better. And yeah, it was a challenge, I guess.
Did you tackle that with chemotherapy?
Yeah, did that and an operation.
Okay. And for
Yeah.
you, like coming out of chemo, because I had a gentleman by the name of Finnair Cooler on the show who he tackled brain cancer. He was a pro rugby league player for the Sharks.
Yeah,
And
so I mean that's another level of cancer,
yeah,
you know.
look, I get that. And you say that being quite a humble fella. But it's still tough. It's something where you know, I haven't been through chemo, but I know a lot of people who have, and I can imagine
Yeah,
like, you're sitting there in the chair and you're coming out and you're not feeling 100% when you leave chemo. How is it
yeah.
going from being extremely active to then tackling this? Were you still able to do some sort of training and keep your sanity? Because I can imagine for
I
you.
mean, I can remember. I think apparently it's day two. I can just remember them telling me that. So it's not right away. It's not the day after, but it's this, the full 48 hours after that you really kind of don't feel great. And I can remember going over to a mate's house and trying to ride an exercise bike and lasting like a minute, 2 minutes tops before I kind of felt like I was going to pass out and had to stop.
And do you keep doing that? Like, is that the thing? Do you keep trying to get
I
back on?
think I did. I can't remember more than I really obviously remember that specific moment because that was pretty full on. But I think, yeah, it's not like that put me on my ass for a month or two after that. It was probably, I can vividly remember going for walks around the block and just kind of trying to build up. I
Yeah.
do a little bit every day. Yeah.
And were you living in Melbourne at the time?
Yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
I was home then.
Yeah, and so obviously good family around you and good mates, and that sort of helps you
Yeah,
get through, doesn't it?
yeah, it helps a lot for sure.
And I know for a lot of people who have been through cancer, one of those proud moments of your life that you look back on is when you get to ring that bell and you're in remission. How long was it for you to get the all clear?
Well, once I had again, like given the cancer, got it at a good point, so it hadn't really spread. So I had the operation, I had the round of chemo, and then for the next 5 years, you get scans twice a year. Had to go in for scans.
Yep.
So probably, I mean, yeah, it's not. I guess every time that you go in for a scan, you're a little bit nervous too.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, that's a while ago now. So yeah, I'll definitely past that 5 year mark anyway.
Talk to me about your journey into, like you've been a pro athlete and to a degree you are an athlete now. It's just, I guess, a lot more displayed now, and it's about inspiring a tribe of people to follow you on that journey and be a part of it themselves. Where so more tennis, it's more so you've just got fans that are following, but you're on that journey solo. What's it been like transitioning into, and talk to me as well about the pressures of being a social media trainer to a degree, because I can imagine majority of your clients, while you've got some local there in Noosa, majority are, seeing the stuff that you do virtually and joining the tribe through social media and through digital means. What's it like to
Yeah.
have to stay sharp all the time because your body is your
Yeah.
platform to advertise? I can imagine the
Yeah.
stress with that. You seem like a guy that loves it, but also talk me through the stresses, but then the
Yeah. Well,
period of that.
yeah. Well, in all honesty, I 100% agree with you. Like, I think if you did look into it, you can't be that out of shape, right? Like, I mean, you can. I'm not. There's no doubt. I've had some amazing fitness coaches growing up. I was lucky enough to work with some really, world-renowned coaches, and they were older, and that was through tennis. I was a teenager, and they were in their 60s and 70s, so they weren't shredded or anything like that. They just had a heap of knowledge. No doubt they would have been when they were younger. So it's not to say that you have to be in amazing shape, but I guess more so these days with social media, when people will give you, literally a millisecond to make up their mind, you probably do want to be in shape to at least get people to then look a little bit deeper and give you a couple of seconds. But for me, I don't feel that, because, like you said, I actually do love working out. Like, I love to train. If I don't train in the morning, it puts me in a worse mood, because I want to do it because I know that starts my day and puts me in a good mood. But I mean, if you took away that fact, then there probably would be pressure. I've got no doubt there is some people that probably do feel that pressure. But for me, in terms of maintaining a certain physique, no, because I'm going to do the training anyway, because I actually enjoy it. And I know that they kind of come hand in hand anyway.
Yeah, of course. Why bodyweight training?
Yeah.
Like, I think we all find the things that we love and the things that really keep us motivated. You said before, and one thing I'm big on is discipline. I think for a long time I really lacked discipline, and I found it hard to be consistent in my training, or really found it extremely difficult to achieve any goals, fitness or health related, because without that discipline, motivation just dies off and it comes in waves. For you, being so disciplined in your professional sport of tennis, was there enjoyment in training then?
Yeah, for sure, because I genuinely loved it as well. So
Okay,
I don't think you could do something 6 days a week from a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 8-9 hours a day of like proper hard work, like 4 hours of running a day, like running up hills and going hard. I don't think you can do that. I mean, there's some people that can probably do that solely off discipline, but you've got to be able to enjoy that. Otherwise, there's no way you can do it for so long.
Of course. And was that the same sort of with this bodyweight venture? You just sort of started delving into different styles of training, see what you really enjoyed, see what gave you some success, and then decided.
Yeah, well, I mean, so from such a young age, because of the sport, I'd always been into fitness. So I'd always gone to the gym. Obviously, I'd been on the road for tennis. We couldn't always get to the gym, so I had some knowledge of bodyweight training too, from travel, doing some hotel room workouts if you can't get to a gym or there is no gym. I went to I've been to so many different countries where sometimes you wouldn't even want to go to the gym. You just it's where you are, it's safer to stay in the hotel, and the hotel might not have had a gym. So yeah, I had that, but the whole time through that period and post that period up until only 5 years ago, I was going to the gym, and that was kind of my sole focus on how I kept fit. And then and then I got to this point where I just, for probably a few years prior to that, I'd kind of really gotten sick of it, but it was the discipline that kept me going, because I thought that was the only way to maintain everything that I had.
Yeah.
And I'm in a million times better shape now than I was post tennis, just going to the gym. But I was worried that if I stopped going to the gym, then that stuff that had been done would be a waste. But I got to the point where I was just like, I can't keep doing this. And I wish I did it a few years earlier, but it was just shit. Like, I was only going basically to catch up with mates. It was just, like driving after work, peak hour traffic, then you get to the gym and then it's peak hour traffic. And I just completely lost interest with it. So that's when I just decided, I just said, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to start using what I already know, but then kind of doing a bit of research and learning so many different types of bodyweight training, and then kind of just going from there. And then within 3 months of doing that, like my body looked how I'd always wanted it to look from about 10 years ago into the gym. I did that in 3 months without going to the gym. So that was enough for me to just be completely hooked on that.
Amazing. And talk me through that period of time. What were you doing for work? Like, what was life like outside of training?
Yeah, so I was family business. We've got a family business in Melbourne, which is in timber and hardware, so building industry. We got a timber yard in Melbourne. So I was working with my dad there.
Okay, and then so obviously for you, then finding real passion again in training and this style of training, you start to take those next steps and go, can I make a career out of this? And if so, how?
Well, yeah, because I'd always been interested in it, and I think I just, after sort of in tennis and everything like that, I was just in a bit of I was just comfortable, just cruising. But I definitely didn't love what I was doing. Didn't excite me at all. So I was kind of just doing it, but it wasn't fulfilling. And then I just got to the point where obviously I had the results I had from that training. And then my wife, she had our son, and she got in awesome shape post-baby, doing the same training all from home, raising a child, so she didn't have to leave the living room. She lost something like 20 kilos or something in 6-7 months. And then I kind of knew I was onto something, and then I'm like, you know what, like it. Then I helped a friend or two just locally, and then same thing happened. So then from there, I'm just like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go after this, start documenting some of the training I did. So that's what I did on Instagram. Just started documenting, writing my workouts back then. Didn't even have videos. I think it was just like, I can remember taking photos of like a pull-up bar and then just writing in the caption what I did, things like that. And then just kind of grew from there.
Talk me through the beginning of socials, because, it's a crazy space and you can grow so quickly. But I can imagine a lot of people and even the level of curiosity from myself as someone who is starting in a new venture, new walk of life, building some good content and really wanted to grow and have this as, for me now, this is my full-time career, and I'm blessed to have some incredible sponsors that you hear at one point in time in the middle of this show supporting me on that journey so I can fund this and live this lifestyle. But to build a social audience seems simple in theory, but it's actually quite difficult. It takes really entertaining content, or it takes educational content. And it probably helps that you're not a bad-looking bloke with a good rig too. But, talk me through building that social base and building that following. Did it come easily, or did it take some real tactics?
Nah, so this was about, what are we now? 2021. So I'm going to say 2017. So Instagram's been a thing since 2012. I could be wrong. Could be 2013.
Yep.
My wife had Instagram from pretty much day one and throughout our relationship. And I'm like, I'm not getting that shit. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. I got my just Facebook. Wasn't interested in the slightest. So in terms of that, I was probably a late comer to because there was already from what I've found and people I've spoken to and that I know, if you jumped on Instagram back in 2015, you were going massive straight away, because there wasn't the amount of volume of people, there wasn't the amount of competition. So I know accounts and people that have, that pretty much haven't grown in 4 or 5 years, but they got their massive growth at the start when there wasn't the volume of people. So I definitely think in terms of that, I missed the boat. But I just did it anyway, and I didn't even know if I knew where it was going. I just thought the type of training was awesome, and I knew it worked, so I'll just share it, and it kind of just grew from there.
Yeah, incredible. And you've obviously got a great following now. I think it's 335,000 people, which becomes quite productive for your business, and it becomes a really good way of sharing and growing those platforms and the things that you do. when were you able to then go, okay, I'm going to do this for a full-time living now?
Well, it's not like, unlike a lot of the people on social media too, I do train people in real life, and I know that is an advantage because I've seen and I've been with some of these social media fitness influencers, and when they actually go to train someone face to face, they've got no idea. Absolutely no idea, because it's pretty easy to hide behind a computer and write a program.
Definitely.
So I did start off online, but I do, as you mentioned earlier, I run a boot camp in Noosa 6 days a week. I take in the class. We're getting classes of 30 people, and that's tough. So being able to structure a session for 30 people is so much harder than just doing a one-on-one PT, because you've got so many different variances of people and things like that. So you learn a heap. And then obviously that transitions into being able to train people and coach people online as well, because you've got the online, the offline, and you deal with so many different people that you get to learn everyone's, differences, because everyone is different.
No, definitely.
So I think when I made the switch, was your original question, when I decided to move to Noosa so we decided to move a couple of years ago now, and the plan was just to open a boot camp. So I got that running probably 2 weeks after we moved up here. And it steadily grew. So I've been lucky enough to be able to do that now for the past few years full time.
Incredible to hear. That's what we love hearing, people using their passions to work full time and just ripping into life. It's good to see. Talking about the diet side of things, I think if I can recall, I know at one stage, you definitely had transitioned to more of a vegan plant-based diet. Is that still the case?
Yeah, but not, I was never 100%. I never went the full. Actually, there was a period of time where I probably did. I probably went a good month to 2 months where I just wanted to test myself and go absolutely 100%. But for a big majority of probably 2 years, or let's say a year and a half, I was kind of like that 80-20, where I'd kind of 80% of the time stay and eat plant-based, 20% of the time, and more when I do the 20%, it was kind of, if I went out to a restaurant, if I went to a friend's place or something, I'll eat whatever.
Yep.
I'm not going to go to a friend's place for dinner and be that bloke and say, I'm not, whatever. Now I'm probably 70-30, where I just, and I just wanted to try that, one, so I could have an understanding of, for clients' purposes as well, two, because I think you can't say anything is shit if you haven't actually tried it or seen it or read about it, or, it's like when people say you're wrong or you're crazy, but they don't even look at your side of the story or your information or something that you can show them. They're just, then that's how you lose, I think, at life if you do that.
I done the exact same thing a couple of years ago. I found myself maybe as one of those people a little bit skeptical how you could feel great without your meats and your proteins. Just basically, basically being typical, growing up on a typical Aussie diet, and
exactly,
nights or chicken most nights for dinner. And I actually tried it for 3 months, full vegan, and I felt great. Yeah. And for me, it was just personal choices. And I've still got a lot of mates that are plant-based, but for me, personal choices were just to be more balanced about things again. But I'm really curious with diet, because I just find not many people get it right in day-to-day life. And a lot of people...
Well, you know what I think it is? I think people try and... There's all this bullshit like that, like the cutting out carbs, and I've done everything, every diet, like, the caveman diet, I've done intermittent fasting, I've done the plant-based, done keto. Keto is, unless you've got like an actual medical problem, it is just, in my opinion, an absolute load of shit. I eat more carbs the past few years than I ever have before, and I maintain the low body fat. Like, carbs don't make you fat, so people need to get that out. There's so much fear around avoiding carbs. sure, don't go drink a bowl of sugar and get your carbs from that, but don't be afraid of having like, you know, like grains and things like that. Like it's fruit. Like when people say, oh, I can't have the fruit, there's too much sugar. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Get serious. So I think that's the problem with diet. People are trying to get too specific with it. If you're trying to lose weight, eat less food than what you're burning, be in a calorie deficit. If you're trying to put on and gain weight, eat in a surplus. It's not, you know,
It's pretty
there's
basic.
not a whole heap to it. Yeah.
I find for me personally, the more I think about it, the harder it is. Like,
Yeah.
if I almost just intuitively eat, and I think most of us know, you know, I think after you've got a relative idea of, you know, I don't know whether you promote tracking of calories or not, but I think once you've got an
definitely when you're learning, yeah. So I did that for a good year and a half every day.
That's a great point. I think if you learn it, like for me, I'd done it for a period too. They kind of now know what I'm putting in my body.
Yeah, exactly. I'm exactly the same.
Intuitive. Like I've got for my cystic fibrosis, I take digestive enzymes every time I eat something with protein or fat, so my body doesn't produce them. So it's funny. Like I was sitting there with a mate the other day, and he goes, "How do you know how many tablets to take?" And I'm like, "Well, I've been doing this for so long. I kind of just know how much protein, fat, and carbs is in everything." Yeah. So your brain almost becomes your tracker after a while, and it's
exactly
be able to intuitively tackle it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. Well, I was just going to wrap up and say, like, in terms of diet, I eat absolutely anything I want to eat, but I just kind of, like you said, I just know how much I'm eating. So if I know, like yesterday, that I overate and I want to stay at kind of that limit where I'm, you know, keeping relatively lean, then I'll just eat a little bit less the next day. I won't like save up and then absolutely binge on a Saturday night for my cheat meal. Like if I want a fucking cheat meal, I'll just eat it. And then I'll work it out from the next day, or I'll do another set. Like it's not, people complicate it. It's not complicated.
Yeah, 100%. Talk to me about sort of life for you now. I look at really successful people, or people who are able to keep real consistency in their health and their business and their life. And there seems to be a few anchors in everybody's day or in everyone's weekly life that keeps them aligned and keeps them on track. For you, what are those anchors, and what have you done to find those?
Definitely, unless there's, you know, something I've got to do for the family, or, you know, like a medical appointment or something like that, it will be training in the morning. Yeah. As I mentioned, that's like, I like to, before I start my work or anything, that's kind of what I need to do. Yeah. So that's probably part of my routine, and that would by far be probably the main one, if not the only one, that I think really sets me up and puts me in a good headspace, and then I can feel like, all right, sweet, that's out of the way, and then I can be proactive on everything else. That would probably be the number one thing. And
would you say that most people just need to get moving for a period of time, whatever they have in the morning, or do you tend to think you need a certain period of time to work out? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
No, I don't think time. I think effort matters. I don't think time matters so much.
Really good way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Do you run?
Like, would I go for a jog, do you mean? Or
yeah.
Very rarely, purely because I know I've said this before in another podcast too. I would much rather, and this is not to sound like I'm the fittest guy in the world, but I get a lot more out of a type of circuit training 45-minute session than I would for a 45-minute jog. Okay. Like if I just go for a jog in 45 minutes, for 45 minutes or whatever, I don't feel like I've really done a workout. So I do it every so often. Sometimes I just get in the mood. It'll be a ripper day and I want to go run along the coast. And that's not so much of a workout for me. It's more like a bit of a meditation, or just a different type of training, but relaxing. So purely based on time efficiency, I don't just go for a jog. I'd rather do a full body kind of hit circuit thing, because I know I get more out of that and I feel better when I've done it. But I do a lot of sprints. Sprinting, I do a lot of. Yeah.
Interesting. The reason I ask is because, and I'll leave this with you. I'll leave this to sit in your mind and maybe fester over the course of the next couple of months. But I set up a charity event last year called 42 for CF, and I ran my first marathon for cystic fibrosis in December. And we're always recruiting people that want to get behind a mara. So
I've ran 40 Ks before.
Have you?
Unreal. In one go, yeah. And that was absolutely zero training. We went out. It was a friend's 40th birthday, and he decided he wanted to run 40 Ks. No, actually, I didn't get 40. I came late. They started before me. I had work. I ran 32 Ks in one.
That's huge still off no training.
Yeah, no training. And we weren't bad. Like, I was starting to cramp a bit at the end, but God, it was mentally boring. We ran around an oval for 32 Ks.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 40 Ks, yeah. We just wanted to stay on the grass because of the concrete and the impact. And so that was a good 3 hours probably running around an oval.
Yeah. Hey, if you ever think about running a marathon, let me know, and I'll have to link you up with one of our events.
All right, I will do.
Amazing. Hey, talk to me about family. Obviously, you guys document a little bit of being a family out there in Noosa. How many kids do you have?
Just got one. He turned 4 in November. Harley. He keeps us very entertained.
Talk to me about being a dad. You obviously love it. You can see that you love it, and you can see that you get a real buzz out of it. How's that been as a life challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's very challenging. I think it's different for everyone because everyone has a different child. Every person is different. Harley was super active from the get-go. He was like walking at 7 months old, 8 months old. So we didn't get much of that downtime where he just crawled and we could plod along until he was, 1 or whatever the average is. So he was full on running by 8 months, which gives you, not a lot of time. It was tough. Probably that first year was pretty tough. He caught whooping cough somehow. He had really bad reflux and other stuff. We were in and out of the hospital. I think my wife did like 10-day stints in hospital because he went in for really bad reflux, but then caught whooping cough when he was in the hospital there as well. So it was like definitely tough first 6-7 months was tough. He's a bit older now, being 4, so it's, it's every age has its challenge, but it's good fun. It's pretty cool.
Was that the push to move to Noosa? Like that sort of lifestyle for the family, or was there other reasons?
Definitely lifestyle was a contributing factor. I mean, we didn't have anyone up here. My family's in Melbourne. My wife's family's all in Sweden. So we weren't moving to family or anything. But yeah, it was just a lifestyle, be outdoors, better weather. As you know, Melbourne's average at best. So yeah, that was the reason.
Yeah, amazing. Really good to hear. One thing I want to ask you before I let you go is it's a question I've found myself asking a lot of people around, it's the beginning of a new year. Everyone goes into the new year with resolutions. I don't know if I'm a big believer in resolutions. I find that really until 2020, I'd gone into every year with a resolution or a goal to achieve, but probably didn't respect the fact that, achieving goals takes a lot of sacrifice, and it takes really changing behaviors in your life for that year ahead or that month ahead or for whenever you're wanting to have that impact to actually achieve them. But I find myself asking the question this year, what are 2 goals that you want to achieve for the year ahead? And what's one behavior you feel like you need to change to make that happen?
Well, I know one behavior I need to change, but I don't know if that would affect any goals. So I think I need to be a little bit more patient with other people, potentially. Show a bit more patience. But like I said, I don't. And then in goals, I haven't, like you, I don't really do New Year's resolutions because I think, you don't need to wait till a new year. If something comes up and you know that you need to do it, you should just kind of get to it. So I've got a few things launching soon. I've got an app launching very soon, which I think, there you go, there's a scoop for you. That's the first time I've publicly said it. So that should be out by the end of the month. So that's been a focus for me for the past probably 4 months at least.
Yep.
Then I want to start up another location for my boot camp. And then, yeah, just kind of grow those two things. So I don't know if patience has got a lot to do with that, though, because if I'm too patient, stuff won't happen.
It's a balance, isn't it, patience?
Yeah.
It's a tricky one to tackle. Hey,
exactly.
Talk to me quickly about the app. What does the app entail? And is it just building on what you've built across social and making it a central platform for everyone to get that information?
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to have all my workout programs. Everything's within the app. The countdown timers on the videos. I've got a friend of mine who's also a mobility coach. There's a mobility section in there. There's a nutrition section in there as well. So it'll pretty much be, everything that you need.
Incredible. Good to hear. Well, Matt,
Yeah.
I appreciate your time very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
I mean, yeah, don't wait for a new year to go after your resolutions. There we go. Since we were finishing with that, just if you've got something in mind and trying to put it off, or just start and get after it, because waiting for a date is probably detrimental.
I love it. Life doesn't wait for anyone. Don't wait for it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 58 with Matt Fox. You can find him on Instagram at Matty with a double T C Fox. Go follow this man. Go get around his training. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to talk to you.
Legend. Cheers.